And we are live. It's Dr. J here in the house. Today, we're going to be talking about low dopamine symptoms and how they are connected to your hormones. I'm excited to dive into this topic today. We're going to talk about it from a female perspective as well as a male perspective. So stay tuned. Before we do, please smash that like button. Really appreciate it. Love to see your comments down below. We'll be responding to. All right. So first off, what's dopamine? Dopamine is an important neurotransmitter. It's made from the substantia nigra in the midbrain. And it makes it an important neurotransmitter, helps with focus. It's a reward neurotransmitter, helps you feel loved and connected. You also stimulate it when you're on your phone, on social media, getting those little alerts on your phone, notifications and such. And of course, it's made from protein. Dopamine is a protein building block. You have phenylalanine to tyrosine, tyrosine to L-dopa, dopa to dopamine. And then dopamine can get converted to adrenaline or norepinephrine. And so when you're chronically stressed, you can easily pull dopamine downstream to make stress hormones. This is a common thing. So this is why people say, "Oh, I'm just stressed out. This is why I feel the way I feel." What they're saying is this chronic stress or chronic inflammation, because inflammation and stress are they're kind of almost synonymous, right? You can be emotionally stressed and depleting dopamine, but you can also be inflamed too, and that can also be depleting dopamine too, from a crummy diet, poor sleep, a lot of toxins, just a lot of nutritional deficiencies. These can all be problems, especially like hormone building blocks. They come from protein. So if we have crummy digestion, we're not breaking down protein, we're not breaking down fat, that's going to be a problem, right? So we really want to be on top of that, make sure we're dialed in with a good digestion and good protein digestion and good assimilation and good absorption. That's going to be really, really key out of the gate. Next, we want to look at underlying stress. If you're a female and your cycle starts to go off, when dopamine starts to get depleted, dopamine is a tonic inhibitor for prolactin. So this is the prolactin brake button, right? The brake pedal. So prolactin is the brake is down for prolactin. Here's dopamine. It's up here. As dopamine starts to drop, the prolactin brake comes up. And so if we get stressed, inflamed, dopamine drops. Here's the prolactin brake pedal. It comes up. So now prolactin starts to come up. What does prolactin do? Why is it important? Well, it's important for essentially breastfeeding, right? But what if you're not breastfeeding? What if you're not pregnant, right? What does it do then? It's going to inhibit GnRH, gonadotropic releasing hormone. And so what that does is that has an impact on FSH downstream, follicular stimulating hormone or follicle stimulating hormone, and then LH, luteinizing hormone. So follicle stimulating hormone connects more to estrogen. Luteinizing hormone is going to connect to progesterone. Really important. FSH predominates in the first half of the cycle, the follicular phase, hence FSH, and the luteal LH predominates more in the second half. It kicks up around day 7, 8, 9, and then progesterone comes up around day 10, 13, and peaks at day 20. And so we have this predominance of LH in that last half. The byproduct is the last half of the cycle. So when we start to have higher levels of prolactin, right? Because that dopamine is dropping because of chronic stress, because of chronic inflammation, that mood, the I love you neurotransmitter drops. That's where prolactin goes up. Prolactin starts to drop GnRH. That's our FSH and our LH, right? FSH for estrogen, LH for progesterone. And that's going to throw off your cycle. So you could skip cycles. You could have PMS. You could start to have low estrogen, low progesterone symptoms. Could be some perimenopausal stuff, some hot flashes, some mood issues, some vaginal dryness. So if you're a woman and you're dealing with these problems and you're like, man, I got to go see my MD, they're going to probably put you on a SSRI medication, maybe a birth control pill. They're not going to fix the underlying issue. I'm trying to give you guys the understanding of what's happening physiologically. Now, GnRH is also connected to thyroid releasing hormone. And so having high levels of prolactin, remember how I talked about it inhibits GnRH? It can also inhibit TRH, thyroid releasing hormone. So it goes hypothalamus, TRH. TRH goes to your pituitary, and that makes TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. And then that goes to your thyroid, it makes T4. And then we have T3 that gets peripherally converted from there. And so we can also have low thyroid can be connected. That's why when we start to have hormonal issues, especially female hormones, what can happen next? You can have thyroid issues too. And this is where it gets really confusing to women and men is you're allowed to have more than one issue happening at the same time because all these hormones are connected. It's like a spider web. If you push one side of the web, the other side moves too. I'm just kind of giving you the underlying reason why. So of course, if we add cortisol imbalances here, if we add insulin issues, if we add more inflammation, or let's say we have an autoimmune issue, these things can get worse and they can compound and get worse and worse and worse and worse. So we have to get to the root underlying issue. And so when we look at that, we may add in dopamine amino acids. And then for men too, dopamine is really important for LH, and LH is really important for testosterone. So we can see this in men too. We can see an elevated prolactin, which we could see a prolactinemia, and you can even have lactation as a guy. Chronic stress can lower it could raise prolactin, which can lower LH, which can then lower testosterone. So guys can also have this low testosterone thing here as well. And so you're still going to be impacted as well. The first thing is going to be get the underlying stress and inflammation down. So figure out if it's an emotional stressor, great, make those changes. Make sure we're doing the foundational things with sleep and diet. Supplement wise, we're going to make sure we're breaking down our protein, breaking down our fat. We're eating healthy protein and fat at each meal, and we're dialing in the carbohydrates according to our activity level, right? More active, fruit and safe starches that are grain free. Less active, you can do low sugar fruit and more vegetables, right? That's kind of a better way to kind of look at it. We want to customize the macros for you. And so we may add in, make sure we're breaking down our protein, hydrochloric acid, enzymes, bile support, making sure maybe we add additional amino acids, maybe add an additional tyrosine or maybe even L-DOPA, right? In my line, we use DOPA Replete or DOPA Replete Plus. Those are the two nutrients that we will use to really bump up dopamine. Make sure we're on top of hydrochloric acid and make sure we're dialed in with our electrolytes because we want our cells to work well, and sodium and potassium are crucial for that sodium potassium pump to work. And then next, we want to make sure we have good quality B vitamins, especially if we have an MTHFR issue and we see poor methylation on an organic acid test. We need B6, we need B9/folate, we need B12, all methylated and activated to make sure our brain can synthesize our neurotransmitters. B6 is a rate limiting cofactor. So we want to make sure good B6 pyridoxal 5-phosphate is there, very important. If we're under a lot of adrenal stress, B5, pantothenic acid, very important. I mentioned folate or B9, same thing. And then your B12, B7 is also like your biotin. And then, of course, a good multi is going to fill in the gap. We want to have things like calcium, magnesium, vitamin C, really important cofactors to make sure our brain's working well. And then, of course, we could have toxins. Things like heavy metals or mold toxins can definitely impact our brain and the way our immune system works in the brain. So if our immune response is overly stimulated, like microglial cells, they're overactive, right? Because we have mold toxins or heavy metals, that can overly stimulate the immune response in the brain, and that can create brain fog too. And so we want to be on top of that. And last but not least, as we age, we add more plaque in the brain if we're insulin resistant. So the insulin degrading enzyme is very important for cleaning up plaque in the brain. You only have so much of this enzyme. And so if we waste this enzyme cleaning up insulin, because it does degrade insulin, so if we waste it degrading insulin, guess what? We have less of it to clean up plaque. So the goal is with blood sugar, we want the least amount of insulin possible. So, okay, that enzyme cleans up the insulin, but has some capacity to still go after cleaning up the plaque in the brain. And so this is very important. With an aging brain, we want to make sure we are insulin sensitive. How do we test that? Blood sugar meter. See how you're doing before a meal, under 100, 1 hour after a meal, below 120, 2 hours after a meal, below 100, 3 hours, definitely below 100. I use the Keto Mojo, justinhealth.com/keto, KETO, Mojo, MOJO. So justinhealth.com/keto mojo. That'll bring you to the Amazon page. I like it because it Bluetooth graphs so you can track your blood sugar. It's really easy to monitor. Next, we want our fasting insulin below 10. Definitely below, ideally below 7, but definitely below 10. That's a good sign that we're making enough insulin and we're not getting desensitized. Desensitized means more insulin, right? If we're more sensitive, we need less to get the cell working. And of course, activity and movement works. But with patients, we're going to run organic acid tests. We're going to look at vanilmandelate, which looks at adrenaline, or we'll look at homovanillate, which looks at dopamine, or we'll look at DOPAC, which looks at dopamine as well. We'll look at like xanthurinate and kynurinate, which look at B6, methylmalonic acid, B12. Fig glue looks at folate. So we'll look at some of these nutrients that tell us about some of these important brain compounds. So I hope that makes sense. We want to get to the root of this. And then again, if sometimes with these hormones, if you're a female and you have a cycle dysregulation, we may want to actually give herbs that work on FSH and work on LH. We'll work on getting the prolactin down by just getting stress and inflammation down, but we may want to work on herbs that work upstream too. Hope that makes sense. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want to dive in deeper, you want more support on that, there'll be a link down below where you can reach out to my staff and team. We're happy to dive in, work with you one-on-one, talk about the lab testing that we do to get to the root and customize an approach that works. All right. Hope that makes sense. If you enjoyed today's video, please let me know and put your comments down below. All right, couple of questions here. Let me dive in. Is depression a sign of low dopamine? It can be. I mean, with depression, a lot of times you see serotonin, right? Serotonin is going to impact melatonin. Melatonin is going to be a precursor to serotonin as well. Or it goes tryptophan, 5-hydroxytryptophan, then it goes serotonin, then melatonin. So yeah, if you have low melatonin, which can impact sleep, a lot of times sleep and mood are intimately connected. And so the more your mood is down, it can also impact your sleep. And then if you don't sleep, guess what happens to your mood? It's like a vicious cycle loop where now your mood gets worse. So definitely. And again, B6 with 5-HTP is going to be key. Like in my line, we use serotonin replete, which has 100 milligrams of 5-HTP with P5P, pyridoxal 5-phosphate B6 in there as well, because it's a rate limiting cofactor to allow that 5-HTP to convert into serotonin. Yeah, thanks for elaborating. You're welcome. Oh, appreciate it, Shemaine. Nice to chat with you again. And then anything else, guys, feel free and let me know. Love to have these conversations, love to have these chats. But in general, we want to get to the root. Sometimes we may want to add in a little bit of progesterone, especially if a woman is amenorrhea. And as a male listening, things that we can do to bump up testosterone, just make sure you're not overtraining, make sure sleep is dialed in, make sure you're not consuming plastics and soy. Anything you do that adds more estrogen in is going to deplete LH. So whether it's soy, whether it's microplastics, mold, storing your food, or microwaving your food in plastics are all going to inhibit LH. So make sure those things are good. Supplement wise, you can do things like ginseng, rhodiola, or ginseng, eleuthero, tonkat ali, tribulus. They can all be helpful. Again, there's different doses that we use. Even saw palmetto can be wonderful. So there's a lot of different things that we'll do based on kind of the labs. There's a lot of different things that can be off in the labs, whether it's low DHEA, how's free and total testosterone, where's SHGB, is there estradiol, is there aromatase? So there's a lot of ways we can look at it. So usually we talk about getting testing and individualize that approach for each person. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did,